Getting here on this Wednesday, and I say that with a little bit of a caution because being out for just a day tends to throw me off for days to come. My apologies for not being here yesterday, as you've had to live with the, I hope you were here long enough to live with it, that even though I hated to put you through it. But if you've been here for the past 2 weeks now, you've known of my continuing cough and just battling whatever it was that I indeed had. And yesterday, it just kind of all fell apart at the seams right about the time I started to do the show, so I do apologize for not being there. And then today, of all days, another perfect storm of different sorts, if you will. I have a few videographers that we have to help cover events and things, meetings of that nature, both of which were on other assignments or with their respective jobs. And everyone else in the newsroom today, who most of the time consists of my mother, also out of town, and a fiscal court meeting at 4 o'clock. At 10 after 5, I just walked out and left my camera recording in hopes that someone will retrieve it for me. And never do I just walk in the door at 10 after 5 in hopes of getting a show together. So from this point forward, I'll be condensing the program to get you as much information as possible. Too much news can be a good thing. It's a good problem to have. It can also be a bad thing at some times. Nevertheless, a few headlines that I want to go back and cover that I didn't get on yesterday. And one is the audit released to the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. State Auditor Adam Edlin just earlier this week released the audit of the 2013 financial statement of the Montgomery County Sheriff Carson Montgomery. State law requires the auditor to annually audit the accounts of each county sheriff. In compliance with that law, the auditor issues 2 sheriff's reports each year. One reporting on the audit of the sheriff's tax account, and the other reporting on the audit of the fee account used to operate the office. The audit is going to be referred to the Internal Revenue Service, we are told, the Kentucky Department of Revenue, and the Attorney General's office in Kentucky. In the following information submitted to us from Adam Edlin, the state auditor, of course, he says that recent changes in auditing standards require the auditor's letter to communicate whether the financial statement presents fairly the revenues, the expenditures, and excess fees of the Montgomery County Sheriff in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States. The report found that the financial statement of the sheriff did not follow this format. However, the sheriff's financial statement is fairly presented, it says, in conformity with the regulatory basis of accounting, which is an acceptable reporting methodology. This reporting methodology, it says, is followed for all 120 sheriff audits in the Commonwealth. As part of the audit process, Edlin says the auditor must comment on non-compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. And the auditor must also comment on material weaknesses involving the internal control over financial operations and reporting. And there were several discrepancies, not discrepancies, but several issues that the auditor took issue with in regards to the 2013 fiscal year audit of Sheriff Carson Montgomery's office. The first being that the sheriff should, in order to correct some of those situations, should comply with the uniform system of accounts.
The report says the sheriff's fourth quarter report was not accurate and did not include any funds received or expended after December the 31st of 2013, halfway through the fiscal year. Receipts of $21,379 and expenditures of almost $75,000 were not posted and included in the financial statement or ledgers. Without the inclusion of those, receipts and expenditures do not agree to the bank activity. It says that in addition, there were numerous items posted to inappropriate accounts. Multiple year audit findings represent failure to comply with the uniform status of accounts adopted under Kentucky law. Among other provisions, the statute requires the official to maintain accurate recording of receipts by source and expenditures by payee, and to fulfill all other legal requirements relating to the oversight of and management of public funds by Sheriff Montgomery's office. It says that the sheriff failed to comply with minimum requirements of the uniform system of accounts in the areas of annual financial statements not being prepared accurately or presented to the fiscal court, quarterly reports not being submitted to the Department for Local Government as required, and complete and accurate receipt and disbursement ledgers not properly being maintained. The sheriff's response to these statements are that there is a new office manager who will be preparing the annual settlement and present it to the fiscal court. He also stated quarterly reports are now being submitted on a timely basis. The report also says that Sheriff Montgomery's office did not remit payroll withholding funds to proper agencies, that the sheriff withheld payments from employees' payroll checks for FICA, retirement, federal, and state withholdings as required. However, the sheriff didn't remit those employee withholdings to the appropriate agencies. The funds or withholdings were kept from paychecks, but they were not sent over to the appropriate agencies. And in addition, the sheriff did not provide the required employer matching funds for FICA and retirement withholdings. And as of September the 5th of 2014, Sheriff Montgomery owes the Internal Revenue Service about $31,096 for FICA withholdings, matching funds, and federal withholdings, and he owes the McGoffin County Fiscal Court an estimated $16,373 for retirement withholdings, funds payable to the county employees' retirement system, and $640 for payroll taxes withholdings. Failure to remit those payments can result in significant financial penalties to the sheriff, as well as reduce the employee's years of service credit and financial contributions used to calculate retirement benefits. And one of the last items we're addressing this evening, as was addressed in the report, the sheriff's office lacks adequate segregation of duties, meaning that a lack of adequate segregation of duties exists over all accounting functions. During the review of internal controls, they noted that the sheriff's bookkeeper is responsible for opening incoming mail, receiving and recording cash, preparing bank deposits and posting to the receipts and disbursement ledgers, and preparing financial reports. And a limited budget places restrictions on the number of employees the sheriff can hire. So when faced with a limited number of staff, strong compensating controls should be in place to offset the lack of segregation of duties. In response to the payroll withholdings, the sheriff's response was payroll withholdings are being paid to proper agencies. And in response to the segregation of duties, he says that they now have an office manager who is overseeing all the problems identified. Once again, the auditor's statement saying that all the information will be forwarded to the Internal Revenue Service, the Kentucky Department of Revenue, and the Attorney General. Now, I've got more headlines. Bear with me. We will get to the end of the show one way or the other, but we have a lot of ground to cover. Join me as I'll be right back after these words. To get high-speed internet on their state-of-the-art fiber optic network for all of your home and business solutions, or to watch TV without a contract on over 200 digital channels with superb quality, or stay connected with family and friends with 24/7 telephone service you can always depend on, contact Foothills Broadband today. Or just click on their link to the right to find out how they're working to provide the latest in communications at affordable prices with exceptional service at Foothills Broadband.
Now, given my schedule, as I mentioned at the top of the program, I do have two announcements that I need to work in ahead of tonight's community calendar and funeral service announcements. The Sagersville Pentecostal Church of Christ has got revival starting this Sunday at 7 and then on through the week. No end date in set. They hope not to have one. They hope you will join them as well. And I also received word of the passing of 97-year-old Verna Helton Adams Fairchild of Adams Street in Sagersville, who passed away on yesterday's date. Arrangements are being held by the McGoffin County Funeral Home. I'll have more details on them tomorrow, but funeral services have been set for the 21st, which is this Saturday at the Sagersville First Baptist Church. With that said, here are other announcements per tonight's McGoffin Farm Bureau community calendar,
including a big sale that wraps up tomorrow at the Open Door. That's, of course, they're at the St. Luke Church, and they're in their new building, as we've already covered. This is a big sale tomorrow. All their winter items are just 50 cents. Every winter item, just 50 cents. That's 2 for $1, any way you look at it, at the Open Door at St. Luke Church here in Sagersville. And I'm going to be there for this one. Now, somebody's got to run the camera, mind you. I'm not going to be participating. I've got to run the camera, but it's going to be a good something to film. The 2015 Community Cares Penguin Plunge is this Saturday, the 21st. Breakfast is at 8 at the Mountain Home Place over in Paintsville. The plunge is at the Paintsville Lake Launch Ramp at 9. All proceeds go to benefit the Johnson County Special Olympics. It's a $25 donation to take the plunge, man. It's going to be cold. It's going to make for some interesting footage and a great story. Take the plunge and help support Johnson County Special Olympics this Saturday. Breakfast at 9 at the home place. The plunge at 9. I'll remind you tomorrow. You can have breakfast with the Easter Bunny Saturday the 28th at the McGoffin County Extension Service. Call 349-3216. The meal is $3 for kids, $5 for adults. That's bunny pancakes, sausage, and a drink, and a photo with the Easter Bunny. They'll even deliver without the Easter Bunny. Call 349-3216 if you have any questions. Hosted by the Funyuns Extension Homemakers Club. Bring the family with you. I'll remind you about it as well. And I've also got a few days to remind you about the big Plan to Be Tobacco-Free event. They had to postpone it due to all the bad weather, but it's next Tuesday, 3 o'clock at the Montgomery County Health Department. A whole lot of resources with the Kentucky Cancer Program, the Health Department, and others to help you be tobacco-free. Call 349-6212, and again, I'll remind you between now and then. The last reminder I've got for you tonight is that all announcements are free. Birthdays, anniversaries, and ones like you just heard, all you have to do is get them to us. To get high-speed internet on their state-of-the-art fiber optic network for all of your home and business solutions, or to watch TV without a contract on over 200 digital channels with superb quality, or stay connected with family and friends with 24/7 telephone service you can always depend on, contact Foothills Broadband today. Or just click on their link to the right to find out how they're working to provide the latest in communications at affordable prices with exceptional service at Foothills Broadband. In other headlines this evening, a Sagersville man remains jailed in the Big Sandy Regional Detention Center on a variety of charges after an incident this past Saturday at the Paintsville Walmart, an incident in which employees with the store notified the Paintsville Police Department about potential shoplifters. They had identified 2 potential shoplifting suspects in the store sometime before 11 o'clock this past Saturday night. Upon arrival of the Paintsville Police Department, they were instructed to the location in the store of the 2 individuals, and that around the same time that police located them, they found this man, identified by authorities as Joshua Whitaker, headed into the men's bathroom alongside a female who, according to police reports and citations, that he pushed into the women's room as he entered the men's room. A member of the Paintsville Police Department then followed Whitaker allegedly into the men's bathroom, where he attempted to question him and take him into custody. However, Whitaker did not go quietly or easily. After refusing requests to stop and surrender to authorities, there was also a moment where authorities witnessed him throw a small container holding a white powdery substance inside into a toilet, and then upon trying to take Whitaker into custody, an altercation ensued. An officer was struck in the nose, struck in the face, and then an officer used his taser on Whitaker. Police citations say that it was ineffective and rendered no effect on the suspect, and that the force was forced to use his police baton in order to finally subdue Whitaker and take him into custody. After finally being arrested by authorities and, as I told you, since being lodged in the Big Sandy jail, Whitaker was also charged with theft by unlawful taking, over $500 but under $1,000, as well as public intoxication under drugs, specifying not alcohol, assault in the second degree of a police officer, criminal mischief in the second degree, disorderly conduct in the second degree, menacing, criminal trespassing, and resisting arrest. Now, the information that I have in front of me makes no mention of the female being charged or her identity at this time, but the investigation does continue by Paintsville PD. Also in headlines this Wednesday, a plea deal today agreed upon by former mine inspector for Kentucky, identified as Kelly Shortridge, says that former state representative Keith Hall of Phelps, a Democrat seen here, paid Shortridge more than $45,000, actually closer to $46,000 in bribes to make safety and environmental violations at Hall's Pike County coal mine or mining operations just go away. Now, after pleading guilty in U.S. District Court in Pikeville this week to one count of soliciting a bribe, Shortridge himself could face up to 10 years in prison. However, with his plea agreement, including the fact that he will intend to fully cooperate with federal prosecutors during the trial of Hall, which comes up in next month's time, sometime around the 20th, for his own case, it's suspected that Shortridge will receive a lesser sentence. He is out on bond, that being Shortridge right now. He will be formally sentenced on June the 24th. He testified that Hall bribed him on several occasions throughout several years, starting in 2009, in order to not write any citations for Hall's surface mines for what he says were repeated violations. He says most of that money was disguised as payments that were made to by some of Hall's companies to a fake business that was set up under the name of Shortridge's wife. Now, as for Hall, after more than a dozen years in Kentucky's legislature, he lost the Democratic primary race last election for his House seat, but is once again set to stand trial on these charges next month. Well, this is one of the reports that I had for yesterday's St. Patrick's Day coverage. The St. Patty's Day 5K held and ran by Dance Etc. over the course of the weekend. A little bit ahead of St. Patrick's Day was a whopping success. Magoffin County and Magoffin County High School student Kirkland Wireman won the overall, as he did a 5K here in Sagersville most recently as well. This young man is quick on his feet and did very well. We wish to congratulate him for his efforts. I don't have his times in front of me. I think that it's very well into the low 20s, if I'm not mistaken. Nevertheless, a great job. We wanted to make sure we mentioned it at least on the program. And we also want to make mention of the fact that we've got some more outstanding athletes and some reports coming up. And on that note, I'll remind you tomorrow, but senior night, which got pretty much wiped off the calendar by the snowstorm, as did the last several games of the regular high school basketball calendar for boys and girls in Magoffin County. Senior night is going to be held next Thursday for the seniors who didn't get recognized as they should. I spoke with Neil West of the Magoffin County High School just yesterday, and he said that senior night has been set for next Thursday at 6. It's free and open to everyone. They help you attend. I'll remind you and tell you more about it. We're set to talk with Mr. West the first of next week about that and some other things happening in the Magoffin County school system. So that's all I have for now on that matter, but as you heard, a lot more to come. And to wrap it up with your Licking Valley RACZ forecast, I realize I'm going to be a few minutes short, but this is absolutely nothing short of a little miracle for me. In an effort to be everywhere at once and then to be covering the fiscal court meeting, which I'll have coverage of later, right down to like 5:15, and then coming up the street and coming in here and getting this much of a show together, I'm very pleased and very exhausted, and I'm very happy to tell you that there's no major developments in the weather forecast. However, there's a few bumps in the road. We've seen clouds today, a chance of sprinkles rolling in after 3 a.m. and a low right around, looks to be, and that was a misprint, I've got 35 degrees for tonight's low. I think I had that backwards. Nevertheless, tomorrow we're going to pick back up, and I expect to see right around 49 degrees. We'll see rain, though. Those sprinkles late tonight in the early morning hours will pick up. We'll see rain throughout the morning and afternoon. Calm winds becoming east around 6 miles per hour in the morning. Rain off and on throughout much of your Thursday with a low of 43 tomorrow night, and I think that was another misprint I had. I'm 0 for 2 for nighttime lows there. My apologies. Nevertheless, the rain looks to continue on into your Friday, mainly before 4 p.m., a high of 54 degrees. Calm winds relatively becoming southwest around 5 in the afternoon. And Friday night, a low of 44. I got that one right. The precipitation should start to wind down by around 7 on your Friday. And check out your forecast for the viewing area specifically for your weekend. Picture perfect, if you ask me, for springtime. 61 and 40, mostly sunny, mostly cloudy late, but mostly sunny and in the 60s on your Saturday. And then Sunday, we'll see more sunshine. Temperatures cool off down to 53 for highs, and then temperatures will even ebb a little bit more with sunshine still on Monday, but 48. But they build back up to the low 50s and some sunshine thereafter. Really, all in all, a nice forecast. Precipitation early tomorrow throughout and across the board on your Thursday and into maybe the better half of your Friday. But after that, we'll clear up and have some really nice conditions for a few days on end. And once again, thank you for being a part of the program. I always feel like I'm catching up even on a good day, and of course today is a little more off than that. So I hope to see you back here tomorrow night with a whole lot of news to make up for then. Thank you so much for bearing with me and being a part of the show. Good night.